Name and emails on the board. I've got more of this wood, so if you're interested, price is right. I'm up in Sugar Hill. Some of it will be in the raffle later.
I find it faster just to stick the spur in the chuck. You can certainly do it with a regular spur. Okay, when I cut this, I marked the top. This is, I believe, maple. And limbs are never round, by the way. So this one is pretty close. A lot of times you will find them where they're quite elliptical, and you got to decide now if you want a deeper curve where you turn it edgeways, or you want a wider bowl where you turn it the fat way. This one doesn't much matter. This is all eyeball, and my measuring device here. So the first thing I want to look at obviously, I didn't guess right. Yeah. I don't think it much matters which way you go. Oh, that's pretty good for length. And now I want to see this hits my finger, and this one hits it a lot harder. So I need to tuck it around here until I got too much. So a little more. If you'll believe your eye, it's amazing what you can see in lining stuff up like this. It's probably faster and better than doing a lot of accurate measurements or trying to make them accurate. But that looks pretty good, and it's not really critical. Okay, turn it down. All right. New safety nomenclature. It can tool rest. It's now known as the fence. Workpiece. The ends are known as the dog. More to come later. Okay, since we're probably we know we're close to a round object here. It's out of balance, so we got the speed all the way down. We turn it on and bring it up. Now, how fast? I'm in no hurry to get there. I get it going. I go a little more. I quit there. Why did I quit there? The leg starts shaking. I'm going to help it here in a minute. Full cut just to get this, on these. Just the way I do them, you can do them any way. But typically on natural edge bows, you put the top to the headstock. The base goes to the tailstock. Kind of works together. But, okay. Yeah, that's a good shot. Remember? Fence. Dog. If you put body parts over the fence, that dog will bite you. Since we're on the clock, I'm trying to go sort of fast, but this isn't something you really need to rush. I'm looking here, I've got plenty to get my tenon on, just as long as I stay a little bigger than this gap with my gauge. Because I'd have to go home and look up one way on Google to find their site to find out what the max and min on this chuck is. I don't keep up with it. But I've got plenty of flat there. So I can start thinking about my tenon, and it just dug its way out there. So somewhere at a demo or a symposium, I heard that when you're doing natural edges, there's two kinds in regard to the bark. There are those that the bark comes off as you turn it, and there's those that the bark will come off soon. So you're probably better off not worrying about bark. Just take it off. Oh, it's good. I don't think it's
on the high speed range.
That's fine. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I just need to get the teeth to bite a little here. This, if it's what this was cut probably a month ago. There's a piece of bark that just ready to go bye-bye. There it went. You don't have a whole lot of leeway. All I'm looking for is a nice curve up to the top that flows well. And none of us started out knowing what shapes really look good. And we have a wonderful way to learn that these days, your computer. You can Google up museums for ancient Greece pottery, Roman pottery, Indian, modern. You can just find all sorts of images on various round forms. And you say, well, I didn't really like this shape. So you look at, well, I should have done it this way. But that's the way you learn. I'm turning more air than wood here. So consequently, I want to be running fast. And taking pretty light cuts. If you try to push it, you're going to push the tool into the air gap and it's going to bounce when the other side comes around. Some of that is just going to happen no matter what you do, but you try to minimize it. I'm tired of looking at ghosts. Let's see what it actually looks like. Not bad, a little fat spot there, but we'll see if we can clean this up now. Now this, you have to be a little careful. I'm not seeing much here. There's one problem I didn't tell you about. I don't believe you can sand this on the lathe. I think it'd beat you to death. If you want to sand it, you do that after it's turned. Yes, sir.
When you're not turning, would you please swing the safety hood up? For some reason, we're not picking up the sound at all.
Is the mic?
I'll say something.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, the mic's still where it ought to be?
Yeah.
Okay,
Not turning, we'd rather hear your work,
all right.
but we don't want to endanger you.
Oh, there's another little safety consideration. Unlike a regular bowl, you don't want to stick your hand up there and feel it. That dog will bite you. Okay, we'll say that's good enough. Some of you guys can take it home and you can do the sanding. So now we got to clean up our tenon here, and don't want to get a lot smaller with it. We can always cut it down when we get it on the jam chuck. I have a robust 9-inch rest, love it. Thank you, sir. certainly anytime there's something to be said for bringing up the tailstock. But I've got the bandsaw chunk out of here, so I won't bother. About 2 passes and I'd have to take it off anyway. Oh, that's good. Okay. Now remember, the end of the log was a dog. This is the fence. The top end of that's the bad dog. It's now gotten sharp. How to sharpen. If you can't sharpen, you can't turn very well. This has gotten beat up. I'll pass it around. This is on Thompson Tools website, Doug Thompson Tools. Guy makes tools, so I figure he knows a bit about grinding them and sharpening them. It's stone simple. The Wolverine, I think, is still by far the most popular, the heaviest gizmo in use. He shows you how to set the angle here and a range of angles for the different tools. And it works well for me. You can always change it. He gives you the projection, 1 3/4 inches, I think it is, but it's all spelled out on this one page. Pass it around. And you can Google it up and it prints out. You don't have to get all the other stuff. You can get to one page. What I found was whatever angle I had across my bowl gouges, when I was trying to get down in the bottom, I was getting almost parallel to the fence here, the tool rest. So I steepened them up a little. If you're doing small diameter bowls with a quick turn in the bottom, you need a real flat angle here. And what this does, okay, I'm parallel to the wood and I'm out here. If I had it flatter, the handle is back here and I'm coming more parallel to my tool rest. So I steepen it up and I get my handle to where I'm more at a right angle. That bad dog don't care where he bites you. You can get a finger over, but as you can see, I've got this part of my wrist is over the fence here, but I need to be real careful to stay back away. I gotta hold it, but yeah, it's something to keep in mind because the thing's nearly a razor edge going that fast. At this stage, I'm just trying to put wood on the floor. I want to be aware of my shape. I've got to match this inside to the outside. And the unspoken rule is you don't want the ID to get bigger than the OD. We've all done that a few times. And I really can't see any of this part. I'm just seeing a blur. I get a good line on here because that's, even though it's not continuous, it's enough so I can see it. When I get in here, back into here, when I'm thinner, I can't see any of the interior. What I'll do is back the butt end of the, just touch it and roll it out and then come back. Because I can see the tool, of course, and I can see this back line, so I have an idea of how thick I am or how much cut I'm getting. But I see none of this inside surface until I get right down in here.
So that's, if that was finished work, that wouldn't be a good thing, but I'm a long way from finished. Okay, then it went over, so.
I'm probably cutting a fat 3/16 on each pass, but I'm not pushing it. And so far I'm looking good. This is thicker than this. I tend to go in here and cut a corner in it. I don't know why, and I've been working on that, but doesn't always. And when you get it real thin, then you got to come back and thin this out, and that's no fun. Or you can throw it away and start over.
I'm a little fat here, and I want to keep the tool rest pretty close. That's too close. And sometimes I remember when you're trying to lock the tool rests and the handles hitting the bed, you can turn it the other way.
Switch to the bigger tool rest, Bob, that lets you stick in there farther. And
Okay, yeah. Yeah, what was happening, the tips were hitting down here on the banjo.
Remind me, Ron, to lift the thing. That's pretty good. I don't want to go too far because I'm going to try to, if I don't get a real good cut, and I'm not nearly as good as people like Jack and some of you guys, but I'll try to shear scrape that a little. I'm about where I want to be on the tip, but I'm a little fat here, so we got a little more cutting to do. Got a lump in it. Ain't real good, but we're going to call it okay. Okay, it didn't describe what I was doing. I'm down in there so far a little over an inch, and that's all I'm going to do to that because this isn't real thin, but it's already getting pretty, it wouldn't be real hard to break that off, which, not to the point it's flexible. So I don't want to take it all the way down and then try to shear scrape out on the end. I want some mass in here holding it together. Now I'm going to go down another level. if you tool control it and all that, great, you can always work on learning how to shear scrape.
Now, the big boys tell you want to bring that inside curve right through the bottom.
Excuse me. Thanks, Bill. You want to bring that curve right through the bottom. And if you don't leave a tall foot, which I don't really like, but I have been known to see translucence in the bottom of these things. You can get that sweeping curve into the bottom a little too deep. At least that's something I have to look out for. I usually have trouble getting this area. I'm getting down now where I can actually see the inside line. There's no air. I'm turning all the way around the circle. Oh, we'll say that's good enough. Now, this is a tricky area to me sometimes, getting the foot. You familiar with these jam chucks? That's a couple of pieces of walnut, obviously scrap, and some at least 2x6.
Saw that on the table, I thought it was one of your mushrooms.
Now it's straight up. Mushrooms lean. The sun's never right overhead. I'm safe, I think, but I'm hitting a little up here.
No longer the teeth on that dog. Now, kidding aside, that is probably the most dangerous part of this, because those that went around, after you get a little wood out, they don't weigh anything. I had one come off at full speed when I was trimming the bottom, and it hit the tail center, bounced off the lathe, my mask, and made a lot. When any of this stuff hits, but it's more. It never hurts to dress one of these up, because no telling how many times that thing's been chucked and whether it goes back on the same way or warps a little. Yeah, that's a little better, a little more solid. Thank you, sir. I never get these things to go just right, but it's one of the, close enough. And I don't know how well that jam chuck is fitting. Yeah, it's in there snug, and you got the ball of that thing, so it really can't go anywhere. So I'm not putting much tailstock pressure on it. It's a little P&N spindle gouge that somebody put in a Sorby handle. Peg Smith was selling the shop for a widow from Apple Ridge, and every one of the tools I bought. And somehow it works for me. This is probably just as good as spindle gouge. It's a little bigger. But that little P&N, like I say, it just, somehow I've got the ethos on sharpening it or something. You've heard before, I want that bevel pointing where I'm aiming. That's my rifle sight, to where I want to go on this base. That looks about right for size. There's some formulas on that, but again, as you're getting started, you'll make your bases bigger than they need to be. As you get more experience, they'll get smaller. Is there any rule, or will the base police come find you? Probably not. Got a little hump where I still got it. As you can probably hear, that thing is not running exactly true. Feels pretty good on this side. There's a hump here, which means it's not centered. Well, since we...
Yeah, about 10 minutes.
See if I can tease it over a little. Probably a waste of time. You know your jam chuck doesn't fit well and your bottom's too thin. As you bring your tailstock in, you see the wings flop out. Oops, wasn't exactly what I planned. That's kind of the luck of the draw, but usually I get them a little better, but that not an unreasonable amount of sanding there.
It's going to move anyhow when it dries.
Exactly, yeah.
that's drying, is there any special technique to keep the bark from breaking loose from the wood?
Question is, as it dries, because this is dead green, is there any technique to keep the bark from doing this? There's some theories about whether the tree's cut in the winter or the summer, and I don't subscribe to that. There's maybe some truth to it. The typical approach is to soak it with thin CA, but like I say, there's the school of thought that says when you're doing natural edge bowls, there's two kinds: those that the bark come off as you turn, and the others the bark will come off later, like that. So, one thing you can see, is that good, Dan? See, the bark's gone where my finger is, but it's still fairly brown. And you can take a dark brown or a black magic marker, and I'm not sure how you handle it bleeding in, but you can color that. Just pop all the bark off.
Burn it too.
Yeah, burn it, yeah.
It look good. The other thing I've done is I've taken the bark and ground it with a really coarse burr and then glued it back on there with super glue.
Yeah. I think knocking it off and painting it.
And you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
So if you got one point that's void,
You guys know to look for bark, and how did he do, and did it pop off of there? Is it colored?
right.
You go out front and find some lady at an art gallery and say, this is a natural edge bowl, this is the bark area. You didn't say the bark was on there. She hadn't got a clue. That's one of those things that applies to turners.
Well, it is a fact. If you cut the wood in the winter, the bark is more likely to
Yeah.
be on. But when you cut it in the spring and you've got fresh growth right underneath that bark that's really soft, the bark will come off much easier. I've put super glue on it and hardened the bark, and then the wood dries underneath of it, but because I've hardened the bark can't shrink, so then it pops up because of that. So.
Well, this cherry was cut yesterday next door to me. I had a piece doing a mushroom this morning, and it came just as I started. It came out of the chuck, and I rarely get that. But I have a one-way stronghold. That's what Willard Baxter was selling when I started equipping my shop with good stuff, or what I thought was good stuff. It's got the straight jaws. They're serrated, but one of those jaws was just completely clad with bark. The bark stayed in there and it slipped off the log, if you want to call that a log. Usually these limbs, the bark's thin enough you bite through. And again, even if that piece came off and fell straight down, and it was quite uneventful. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get seriously injured standing in front of one of these things, but it's more when you get in. Did I pass this around?
No.
That dog will bite you if it comes out of a chuck. Just hold it. The weight, I don't know, that's what, 6 or 8 pounds? And I think in the current American Woodworker, was it something Yamaguchi, young lady, not lady.
Page 27 in the new American Wood Turner.
And man, you talk about a pucker factor, they've got
Very good article there.
before and after MRIs or x-rays, whatever. Right side of her face, eye socket, I don't remember, it's all in detail. But like you look at that and look at it enough to realize what you're looking at, and it'll get your attention. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It's pretty hard to happen with pieces like this. I don't know what that weighs, but it's got to be less than a pound. Now that's 6 or 8. That comes out of there at 3, and it's probably unbalanced. Her injury, she does very beat up wood with holes, and And she's experienced. This is a long-time, well-experienced professional turner. It's not like a know-how. And she had packing tape on it, and I don't remember the details. Phone rang, and she came back and didn't follow her normal startup procedures, and it came apart on her. And maybe she didn't have her mask back on, or
She just turned the lathe on. She didn't even have a tool in her hand. The phone rang, she didn't turn the speed down, she went back, she wanted to see if it's still turning the room. She turned the lathe on and it blew up in her face.
with tape, right?
She had duct tape on it.
Oh, not packing. Okay.
And I don't recommend duct tape.
Yeah.
But she normally turns the speed down and she didn't. It ruptured her iris, it tore retina loose, it destroyed her eyelid that had to be removed. She's just got a little bit of peripheral vision in that. She has no depth perception anymore, and it shattered the bones around her eye socket and her jaw, and she's had multiple surgeries and still got facing more of them to recover from. And it's always a simple thing that you forget to do. You know, you can't put a seatbelt on in the middle of an accident, and you need to use all the caution you can on everything that you do.
And to that point, see that mushroom, that's a thick stem to me. But you might, I got it some kind of inclusion on each side. Hey, it's a practice piece. It's light. It probably, if it hit my mask, it wouldn't matter. If it hit my eye, it might knock my glasses off and I could get a facial cut. I doubt it has enough mass to break bones. But why bother? Hey. And other than that, everything I've shown you, all that natural edge bolt has a little knot in it about that big, but none of this stuff is likely to come apart. These are fresh limbs. It's beginning to show a few cracks, but that's a solid piece of wood. We can be pretty sure, as small as it is, there's not any serious defects in there. When you've got a piece of pretty wood that's got defects, that's when you need to put on the belt and suspenders and be very cautious. So when I'm talking about, I don't mean to leave the impression that safety isn't a major factor in this game or this hobby or profession, whatever you want to call it. But these practice pieces are not very anything can happen. You can get a little speck of bark and scrape your eye and end up with serious complications, but off of any of these little pieces. But
why don't you take the bark off before you put it in the chuck? That little bit of bark.
Say that again, Bill. I'm not.
If you don't, if the bark in the chuck is a problem when you're doing these mushrooms, why don't you turn off a little bit of that bark that's going in the chuck?
Turn it between the center start.
Yeah, you could.
Then put it.
You could.
Yeah.
But I'd say I get 1 out of 50 that come out of the chuck, and again, I do wear the mask. Nothing else, the bark chunks flying around, or shavings flying around for that matter. When I was a kid, my dad had a NAPA parts store, and we had an automotive machine shop in back, and I got to turn brake drums. And I was down looking at a brake drum lathe, which was actually a cutter, not a grinder. And I got a little piece of steel in my eye. And I still vividly remember going to the hospital, and it was just on the surface, and it didn't do much damage. But by the time I got there, it had scratched the eyelid, and that's what hurt. I had all these scratches on the inside of my eyelid, and I still remember, I'm holding my eye and flicking that thing and my vision jumping. So I've been real cautious about eye protection since then.
Probably rusty drum you were turning.
Well, no, it was, I think I was past that. But, of course, at 16, glasses, what are they? Any other questions? Well, do what you like with it.
You want to give away one of the
mushrooms? On the mushrooms, have you done any finishing on those as far as like lacquer or anything on them, or you just natural?
Usually just natural. The question was, have I done any finishing on the mushrooms? I tell you what, if you can get crepe myrtle about that big and turn it quick, because that stuff will open up one crack in about 3 days if you cut it in lengths like this. Beautiful, no grain, creamy wood, almost white. You can get smooth cuts on that, and probably the simplest thing, because again, these are not something you're going to rub out and bring to a high polish or not. Probably just oil, Minwax or whatever, that type thing you like. I think Jim Talley I don't think he finished his, and he was selling them 10 years ago for $2 or $3 a piece. Just somebody come by the booth and, oh, this is wonderful, but I don't have $400 for that vase, but I'll spring for $3 for a mushroom because they're cute. You know, that's back in those days, that was a cup of coffee for both Jim and Phyllis. But no, generally I consider them practice pieces, turn them, and like the little points on the top, you could hit that on a sander and make it go away in a heartbeat, but nothing wrong with doing it, just I don't bother.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. I appreciate you folks having me.